So you're thinking about moving to Brainerd, Minnesota, or maybe buying that dream cabin for weekend getaways, or maybe those epic fishing trips that you've been wanting to do. Today, I'm going to be covering the 5 mistakes that people make when moving to the Brainerd Lakes area. So welcome to the land of 10,000 lakes and at least 10,000 rookie mistakes when it comes to newcomers moving to the Brainerd area. So let's go ahead and get after it, because if you're planning to move up north, there's stuff that you need to know. And trust me, you don't want to be that guy that shows up in January wearing a hoodie thinking, it's not that cold. So let's go ahead and get after it. If this is your first time on the channel and you want to know everything about living in the Brainerd Lakes area, or lake homes, cabins, real estate tips, and yes, local secrets, make sure you subscribe below, tap that bell for notifications. That way you'll never miss out on what's going on in the area. I'm Noah Gedker, and I help people like you relocate to the Brainerd Lakes area by vacation homes. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 9 months, give me a call, shoot me a text, schedule a Zoom. The link is below in the description box. And let's go ahead and make your move to the Brainerd Lakes area smooth and stress-free. All right, let's go ahead and start with the obvious. Winter here is definitely not a vibe that really most people are absolutely in love with for the sake of winter, okay? It's definitely a full-time commitment. You don't just, experience winter in Brainerd, you live it. From November, mid to late November, basically, until really March, but here we are in April and it's snowing outside right now. So I think there's only 1 month that it hasn't snowed here in Minnesota, historically speaking anyways. So I think that's July maybe. But anyways, we still have, we want to keep all of our fingers, no frostbite, anything like that. So this first mistake is underestimating how long, cold, and actually kind of expensive that winter is. Snow blowers aren't that optional unless you have a really small driveway. But if you have a decent sized driveway and a sidewalk, you almost need to have a snow blower. Otherwise you'll throw your back out. Heated garages, that definitely helps. You don't have to heat it, it doesn't have to be 75 degrees in your garage. You can have 45, 50 degrees, just a little bit to take the edge off a little bit. Well, if you don't have a heated garage, you better have a remote start, because you're going to want to warm that vehicle up before you head out. And I know, I'm sure people in the comments will say, that new cars, you don't need to warm them up technically, but you do if you're cold and you can't feel your fingers when you're trying to drive. So, and you got to clear off the snow, clear off the ice from your windshield and all that. So it's better just to warm it up. Also, if you think that lake life means that year-round boating, probably not. So come January, the lakes are a complete frozen tundra. Actually, where grown adults actually sit and fish for 8 hours, hoping to catch a walleye. It's called ice fishing. Others might call it something else. January is the coldest month of the year, with the average low in January being about 3 degrees, the average high being 21 degrees. And then keep in mind the wind chill factor. That's like what the temperature actually feels like, which really that's all that matters, right? What it actually feels like. And then there's, of course, snowfall. We talked about be prepared to remove snow. There's about 44 inches of snow annually here in the Brainerd Lakes area. Some winters are more, some winters are less. More is better for the snowmobilers. If you don't snowmobile, less is probably better, but it's not like crazy, like Buffalo, New York, or the Upper Peninsula of Michigan that get 100 plus inches of snow a year. But we do get snow, so just plan for that. So people think that buying a lake home automatically means that you own shoreline, and that's not really the case. So mistake number 2 is not really understanding the different types of lake access, okay? So the most expensive type of lakefront is private lakefront. And then there's deeded access. So you might have access through like an association or homeowners association. And then there's like lake views with zero access. So those are the most common. There's a lot of public access, right? So everybody has public access to the lakes here. So private lakefront is you own a parcel of land that runs up to the shoreline of the lake. So you can put a dock in or kind of, for the most part, do what you want, with the exception of a few restrictions put on by the DNR or the county. The most typical scenario will be as a part of an association, you might have a boat slip on a dock or a boat slip in that portion of shoreline that's owned by the entire association. And then lake views, that kind of, hopefully that makes sense to everybody, that you might just, your home might happen to be in a spot where you can see a view of the lake, right? That's going to be a lot cheaper, which is great. The big difference is, private shoreline, if it's level and it's a premium lake, you could be looking at $300, $400, $500,000 just for the lot. And that's typically going to be like Gull Lake or on the Whitefish chain. We talked about in previous videos about Table Rock Lake. All the homes on that lake, nobody owns the shoreline there. There's no private shoreline. They just get a view. Things to always make sure you ask is find out what type of shoreline you're looking at when you're looking at lake homes. What are the restrictions? Are there any restrictions on like boat size or dock size or types of docks? So trust me, you don't want to make that mistake and realize that all you're able to do is put a kayak in the water or a canoe when you wanted to wakeboard. Now, you may be thinking of moving to the Brainerd Lakes area to escape all the rules and the regulations, the HOAs. You probably watched one of my last videos about, the Brainerd Lakes area being one of the last great places to not have to deal with HOAs. Well, that's mistake number 3, not realizing that some parts of Brainerd, the Brainerd area, do have HOAs. Even up here in the land of flannel and freedom, some neighborhoods come with HOA fees, bylaws, and the world's pettiest restrictions. What kind of Christmas lights you can put up or not, or if you can even put up Christmas lights, if a fire pit, or if you can have a fire pit actually, if it's too close to whatever the size of it, and what kind of dock you can put in, or how you're even allowed to pull into your dock. End up having the HOA police come out and get you, lock you up. That's why like 95% of my clients, they want a non-HOA home, if you will. And the good news is, in the Brainerd Lakes area, you've got options. This is the area where HOA haters can unite in our mutual hatred for these silly homeowners associations. So just know that if you want that, certainly those are available in HOA, but if not, you're looking in the right place. All right, mistake number 4, and this is a big one. So thinking that cabin life is, just s'mores and sunsets and jumping in the boat and then head back home for the week and just kind of leave it as is and come back and it'll be exactly perfect when you come back. Look, owning a lake home, definitely great. There's so many perks about it, but it really takes a lot more effort than I think a lot of people realize. The docks need to come out every single fall and go back in the spring. You don't want to leave them out. You'll destroy your dock. Septic systems, those need to be maintained. You need to winterize your home if you're not going to be there over the winter, unless you want frozen, exploding pipes for Christmas time, okay? You don't want any of that. There's a lot of people do end up, they'll buy a vacation home or lake home thinking how great it's going to be. They're planning to come up for the weekends. They realize that they come up on Friday, they spend all of Friday afternoon, evening, doing some work on the home and the property. They might get Saturday in, and then Sunday morning they'll close up the cabin to head back home, and they barely got any time to relax and enjoy the cabin. So just know what to expect with that. There is a downside. Also, there's all the wildlife that comes with it, right? Basically Airbnb for squirrels and bats and the occasional bear even. So no, so this is not a set it and forget it type situation, but hey, at least you'll never be bored. All right, last but not least, the 5th mistake is expecting that the Brainerd Lakes area homes are going to be cheap. And look, we're not Lake Minnetonka. You know, you're not paying $3 million for a shack that needs to be torn down. But the Brainerd Lakes area is not dirt cheap either. Entry-level cabins are going to be, you know, this is all dependent on what lake you're on and the type of shoreline and stuff like that. But generally speaking, for the Brainerd Lakes area, entry-level cabins will be between like 300,000 and up to about 500,000, somewhere in there. And they're generally going to be 500, 600, 700 square feet. They're going to be very small, 1 or 2 bedrooms, and they're going to generally need quite a bit of updates. Some of them really will be kind of a tear down in many cases. So but if you're looking for something small, you just want it so you have your own private waterfront, then that's actually a pretty good option, or can be, for you. And then there's that mid-range of shoreline, probably like 500,000 to 900,000 and up, kind of close to $1 million would be that median type of lake home in the lakes area. You know, that's generally going to be pretty decent shoreline, or it could be a nicer home but not good shoreline, or like a really steep shoreline. But you could have like this home just over 500,000 on Velvet Lake, right outside of downtown Cross Lake. Beautiful shoreline, 157-ish feet of private shoreline, great sandy beach, lots of privacy, and you know, a fairly large home with really some really cool features to the home. Needs some updates, but overall it's a great property for that price. And then you have like this home on Camp Lake, east of Brainerd. It's a beautiful custom log home with even mother-in-law suite, or like an apartment type deal above the garage. Every detail of this home is phenomenal and in great condition, and it's about $1 million, right? So that's kind of the range of 500 to 900,000, or up to about $1 million. And then you hit the luxury lake homes are going to be $1 million plus. Generally on a smaller lake that's not as sought after, if you have one of these lake homes that are that price, that will actually be really more of a luxury feel, because luxury is not just being lakeshore. To truly be like really luxury, I would say gonna probably be about $1.5 million at least, or more, so over $2 million. There's actually, in the Brainerd Lakes area right now, as of like the end of March, beginning of April, there are about 28 private waterfront lake homes that are $1 million plus. But yeah, about $1 million to actually, I think right now the highest is 3.2. You know, I've seen 4, 5, closer to $6 million prices as well. So all different price ranges that are available to you, depending on what your likes are and what you're looking for your cabin or lake home, lake retreat, or maybe year-round lake home. If you want great shoreline, privacy, potential rental income, even a lot of options for that here in the Brainerd Lakes area. Brainerd really gives you way more bang for your buck than, you know, the Twin Cities lake markets, or really a lot of lake markets around the country too. You can take a look at the video I've done comparing some of the top lake communities, comparing them to the Brainerd Lakes area. Check that out to kind of see what your options are, but just don't expect, you know, $150,000 steal on a lake, right? I mean, at this point, it's hard to get even a good lakeshore lot at that price. All right, so that is your crash course in what not to do when moving to Brainerd, Minnesota, or looking to buy a cabin or vacation home here in the lakes area. So, you know, whether you're relocating full-time or looking for that perfect lake home, avoiding these 5 mistakes is definitely going to help save you time, money, and major headaches. If you want someone who actually knows the market, who will know when you're about to accidentally buy, you know, a swamp, make sure you give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. The links are below in the description. And hey, you know, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap that bell for notification. That way you never miss a video, and get more insider tips, property tours that will continue to be on the way. And until next time, I'll see you around the Brainerd Lakes area.